Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at 7 of the best reasons why you should get into shooting film right now. So let's get into it. The first and possibly most convincing reason that you should give film photography a go is that it is much cheaper than the equivalent digital SLR photography. This Canon FTB is a fully manual professional grade camera from 1971. It cost me about 90 quid a couple of years ago, and there are dozens of models that you can pick up for much less than that. With a wealth of lenses available to satisfy all of your needs, these old cameras make a great bargain when compared to more modern DSLRs. So in a time when we already can take great digital photographs from our phones, you might be wondering, why on earth am I telling you to go out and spend money on something that doesn't have any of the automatic features of the kit that you already own? This brings me on to point number 2, which is just that. Phone cameras allow very little room for you to use your creativity. Now, a camera which allows you to do all of the work, such as a dedicated digital camera, will enable you to improve your photography. However, a camera which makes you do all of the work, such as a fully manual film camera like this one, will force you to learn to use your camera in creative new ways, and you will end up taking good pictures much quicker. If you've only ever used a smartphone or digital camera set to auto for your photography, then the extra learning curve of working out how to get the camera to actually do what you want will accelerate your learning process even more. As a bonus, this deeper understanding of photography is extremely satisfying, making the journey of learning film much more fun than digital. This brings me on to number 3, which is that getting back to basics with film will give you a new appreciation for that analogue simplicity that we just don't get enough of these days. Our lives are filled with stats which try to tell us that our insufficiency can only be resolved by purchasing the latest tech. The photography community is particularly bad for this, with gear geeks and pixel peepers relentlessly comparing new models against old. Film is the perfect antidote to this world of stats, as it teaches you to appreciate that it's not the latest sensor or the number of autofocus points you have that get you that perfect shot. The only thing that matters is the relationship between you, the photographer, and your camera. And when you alone are responsible for the output of that camera, with no autofocus or automatic exposure, seeing your improvement over time brings a satisfaction like no other. And that brings me rather seamlessly on to point 4, which is that film makes you think. Being so used to only using digital cameras nowadays, we have become conditioned to believe that the only way to take great photographs is to follow the all-important rule for digital photography. That is, of course, take many photographs and delete most of them. Sadly, this trick doesn't quite work when shooting with film, not least because every photo you take costs you money. When shooting with film, it pays to be thoughtful, as you only get around 24 to 36 exposures on a film reel. Without any electronic aids, you have to learn the craft and think properly about every composition. This gets you out of any habits you might have taught yourself when shooting digital photography, and you will become a better photographer as a result. Not only will your skills improve, but in only pressing the shutter button when you're absolutely content with your properly composed, well-considered shot, you will soon begin to notice that you are happy with a much higher proportion of the photos that you take. One of the great strengths of digital photography is that it produces predictable, repeatable results. Exposure can easily be changed in post, meaning that it again facilitates a certain amount of laziness when shooting. However, it's not quite so simple with film. The developing process tends to take place one whole reel or more of film at a time, meaning that the exposure of specific photographs can't be fine-tuned. This tends to mean that you need to get it right from the offset. With that said, some film stocks can give exciting, unexpected variations depending on exposure and composition of the film. So getting stuff wrong accidentally, or even on purpose every now and then, can lead you to new exciting effects and styles that you wouldn't have thought to reproduce digitally. Experimenting with different development techniques and films, especially with some of the wackier film stocks, can show you things that digital simply can't. Analog photography brings with it a whole host of quirks that camera manufacturers have spent the last few decades ironing out. Unintentional double exposures, dodgy shutter timings and light leaks all contribute to the aesthetic of a great photo album. And the best thing about all of this, you have no idea about any of it until it's too late. Many of these apparent disasters go undetected until your film is developed, meaning that whatever catastrophes you have been subjected to now just have to be turned into good memories. But that's okay, because they all add to the story. We're so used to taking photographs and sharing them instantly with friends and family, only for them to get lost in the sea of selfies and screenshots, that photography no longer has that nostalgic charm of sitting round and flicking through the family album. Shooting with film brings that magic back, as you'll soon realise, as I have, when you reach the bottom of your sock drawer only to find an undeveloped film from that holiday you went on 6 months ago. Having a flick through reminds you of 36 otherwise forgotten memories. Of the hundreds of scenes that made it into your viewfinder, these were the 36 best bits that deserve the thought and time to make it through the shutter, to be physically immortalised without the aid of any electronics. It is this deeply satisfying mechanical nostalgia evoked by film that makes it truly worth a try.